Hey everybody, this is Cameron from Obnoxious and Anonymous, here with a Twin Peaks thought of the day. Today is Wednesday, July 15th, 2020. My guest today is somebody who hasn't been on actually in a while, so I'm very happy to have him back here. It's Take the Rings, Jeremiah. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
My goodness, I haven't seen you in so long. First thing I noticed was you shaved.
I did.
You've gone Hollywood.
I finished that video, and I kind of had this all planned out. So video premiered, and then I went on vacation for like a week and a half. And I haven't had a proper vacation in like a year. So I went to visit my parents and got some sun and shaved my beard and wore swimming trunks all day for a week.
I think what happened is you're letting the 63,000 views your video has gotten. I think it's gone to your head. I think that you decided to go full Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
And you're moving out to Hollywood. That's what I think.
Hey, maybe. You never know.
So
stranger things have happened.
63,000 views on this video.
Yeah.
Is that the most views you've gotten on a video? Like right off the bat?
Oh yeah, off the bat for sure. Definitely my biggest video for sure. So like the Judy one, the split screens, my first video ever has 90,000 views, but that's after 2 years.
Unbelievable.
So this one is huge for me and my channel for sure.
So let me ask you this. I think I know how you're going to answer, but would you say that the Welcome to Twin Peaks site that posted your video as well as on your YouTube channel, do you think that contributed to the views, or do you have that kind of built-in audience already that, if you put a video out there, you're going to get a substantial amount of views anyway?
No, that was huge. That was a big deal. That was a really cool experience. They did a write-up and all of that. And I mean, that kind of, I guess, legitimized the whole thing. So I did put out a trailer that I just did myself and put out, and that did really well, surprisingly really well. I mean, that's got 30,000 views. Now that's been up a month and a half or whatever, but it's just like the 2-minute teaser or whatever. And that did pretty well. So I think people were waiting for it, but then like the biggest Twin Peaks related website did a feature on it. Definitely helped.
You know how many views the official trailer of Queen of Hearts has gotten?
No.
3,000. So you are far surpassing other projects out there. And I gotta tell you, I was, I had some fun on Twitter about this. I kind of was teasing you because I called you a liar on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Because when we talked, you had said, I went up there, I shot a bunch of footage, I'm not sure how I'm going to cut it, might use some music. Okay. And I sat down, right? I saw your trailer and I thought, oh, that's cool. That's really clever. And so when the video dropped, and it was before it had even posted on Welcome to Twin Peaks, it was just on your YouTube channel at that point. And I thought, cool, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to check this out. And I was expecting, do you remember that Japanese Laserdisc that came out, the visual soundtrack of Twin Peaks, right?
Yeah,
where it was basically just like someone walking around with a video camera filming locations and stuff. That was back when the train car was still there.
Yeah.
And look, I expected something better than that because obviously I saw your trailer, but I was sitting there like going, there's no way in hell that you accidentally set up all those shots so perfectly to blend it in and out of the footage. So you need to level with me right now. Did you always have in your mind that you were going to do something like that? Or did you seriously get lucky with almost every location you went to that you set it up?
It was half 50-50. So I had just gotten a new job, had left my old job. I had a week in between. Wife said she'd take a vacation. So and she said we should go up to Seattle and you can do the Twin Peaks thing. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. And I don't really have a good camera, but I borrowed a decent one from my buddy, and I grabbed the Blue Rose Magazine #8. Has a ton of locations and coordinates. You had just been up there, so we talked on email, and you gave me some pointers and kind of broke some stuff down. And I went through real quick, like in an hour, scrubbed through all my, because I've got all the Twin Peaks is all digital because I make the videos, right? So I scrubbed through everything I could just like recall, like, oh, the diner, oh, the sign. And so I grabbed a bunch of screenshots and I made a PDF and put that on my phone. And so I had like a decent amount of shots. I had a decent plan, but I was also just trying to relax and be on vacation and relax. So I was like, I'm not going to put a ton of effort into this, but this will be, if it's fun and feasible, I'll, do whatever. So, but on the other hand, there were a lot of accidents, like a lot. Like I was like, I knew I had the sign, or the place where the Twin Peaks sign was. Like I did have that on my PDF, and I took like 5 or 10 minutes to kind of make sure I had that, so that would line up. Trying to remember what else it was.
So let me just pause you right there. So you were staying in Falls City at the, I believe you stayed at the Roadhouse.
One night.
Right. So you're 5 minutes away from the Twin Peaks sign at that point. You take that little roundabout and you go through. So why didn't you go back after that guy had left, parked his truck? I mean, like, you're right there.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, I wanted to go get stuff at night, and I wanted to do a bunch of stuff, but like, we just didn't, like I said, I was like, I am not going to be stressed about this. If shots don't work out, then they don't work out. We're just kind of following a path. And that was my first time up there. So like, now it's like no big deal. Now I know, like, here's the sign, here's the sheriff's station, here's this, here's the Meadowbrook Bridge, there's Ronette's Bridge. It's, like, now I kind of know where everything is. But like, that video was straight up like, I'm going from point A to point B. Point C.
And let's just be perfectly honest. It seems like when you watch your video that you would have been happy just hanging out at Smokey Joe's all weekend. So
yeah.
I was like, he's spending a lot of time at Smokey Joe's. I don't think he wants to leave.
Yeah, no, it was good. That was a long day, and you never know how things are going to shake out and how. But it was cool. Like, I'm an old punk rock promoter. Like, I spent 15 years in dive bars and clubs and things, and I rolled into Smokey Joe's and we were tired, and I was like, this is my spot right here. So we did. I ended up meeting a guy. This didn't make it in the video because it kind of ended up being too long, but I met a guy in there who said he was an extra on the pilot at the Double R, and his job for the whole day was to sit at the bar and eat a bun with a piece of lettuce on it for 8 hours, or pretend to eat this fake hamburger for 8 hours. So I had a couple encounters with cool people, but I didn't get them on camera because, again, like, your batteries are dying and you're changing out memory cards, and I'm like, not stressing about this. So I watch your video, and I keep seeing online people referring to it as a travelogue, and you actually premiered it, right? So it was like, I saw like the chat was going, and I'm sure you were monitoring what people were kind of checking out at the time too, what they were saying. Yeah.
And the people who are commenting now saying like, oh, it's one of the best travelogues ever made. It is, because it's not just here's point A, here's point B. You get into the location, how it's related to the show, the history of that location, even if it's very spare. I mean, you kind of get into it. And So you tie it together. So what you do is you're creating a situation where if you love the show, and why would you be watching if you didn't love the show? So you're getting people on the nostalgic front, but you're also like educating people about the area. Then you're filming in like glorious HD. So it's like looking stunning. And it makes you feel like, if you've never been there, it makes you feel like you have been there. And coming from someone who's been up there a few times, I actually felt like I took another trip after watching your video. Yeah. And I was shocked when you told me it was only 27 minutes long, because I could have watched that for as long as you were willing to take us on that journey. I could have done an hour. I could have done 2 hours, because I thought that the way you tied it all together was so cool that I hope that, I hope you do something, if not in Twin Peaks, I hope you do something on similar ground with something else, because I think you have a true talent for it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I mean, I've been kissing your butt on social media about this thing for a while now. So
yeah. No, I mean, because you're doing Queen of Hearts, but it's a weird thing, because it's kind of taken me like my whole life to get kind of to a point where like I'm not a good camera guy, really. I mean, I did video a long time ago, and but I'm more of an editor producer guy. I haven't really shot anything in a long time, but when you're up there, it's just kind of, it's all inspiring and it comes together. But like the Deer Meadow, Sam Stanley and them,
right.
White Mountain, and accident. It was a total accident. That was me going, this looks good. Oh yeah, this kind of looks like the show. I think it's like there's not a bad shot of that mountain.
No. And that is actually, I mean, don't get me wrong. Everyone loves the falls. Everyone loves the diner. I love all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. But Olali State Park is probably my favorite place ever, because you're hitting like 25 Twin Peaks locations all at once. Yeah. And it's also, look, you do a lot of filmmaking stuff. I do a lot of filmmaking stuff. And then when you see the sheriff's station and the sawmill, and you see Olali Park, you begin to realize just how efficient the production was, because you can't be moving cameras and crew across, even if it's Snoqualmie to North Bend to Everett or wherever, you can't be moving everybody back and forth. So you find a location, you know what I mean? And you utilize it. Yeah. And literally Olali State Park is about the size of maybe a football field and a half. I mean, it's not that big. And
where everything is,
right.
You're probably right. I would say from that mountain to where you enter the park all the way to Gersten's Tree.
Yeah.
Which might be the stretch. I mean, yeah, that's 2 football fields, maybe. Yeah. And everything's there. Everything is there.
And the light and the
rain. Yeah. I was like, we were just like miserable, but I'm just in like total bliss.
But once you get into the wooded part, I mean, the trees cover up a lot of the rain. But my wife, I have to tell you, my wife loved that part when you're talking about how soaking wet you were. She thought it was hilarious, because it's just like you completely, in that the way you say it in your voice, we completely get it. You know what I mean? That you're drenched.
Yeah. I've been there for 2 hours at least at that point. And you're like, so I'm not super clever, but I basically sat down and just wrote it, just kind of stream of consciousness, because I wanted to do and I still might just release it with no VO, just music and shots. And like the Japanese Laserdisc thing. And I forget I lost my train of thought. But,
well, while you're thinking about that, let me just tell you that, like I said, your video is nearly 63,000. But I do want to know, are you aware that every time someone clicks on your video, at least the last few times I've clicked on it, it always starts with a manscaping commercial about. And so I'm trying to figure out, like, why on earth would a manscaping commercial think to advertise on 3 Days in Twin Peaks?
So I think that I'm I'm not exactly super YouTube savvy yet, but
Right.
when you set the parameters, it's just kind of like you've got it. Like, I think I'm in the entertainment category, and
Right.
you know, I'm not mega huge like, I don't know, Lindsay Ellis or something. It's like when you get that big, you can like negotiate sponsorships and who advertises and stuff. But I think Axe Body Spray or whoever it is just like, we want ads to go on all the entertainment channels. So like all the Star Wars blogs and stuff. I thought you were going to say Trump. That's what my wife said. She goes, every time I watch your video, there's a Trump ad. I'm like,
it's just, but it's like ads that have nothing to do with anything.
Right,
I mean, for a while when season 3 was on, and I think when the Blu-ray set was coming out, like sometimes I would get like a Showtime commercial for Twin Peaks. Like that would make sense. You know what I mean? But,
yeah, exactly. Like an HBO show or something, you know.
Exactly. So, yeah, I love your video. I'm sure every single person who is watching this right now has seen your video. I mean, you know, but I think everyone should check it out. I've watched it at least 5 times. I've sent it to like all my friends and family.
Wow.
And I said, listen, I know you guys don't watch Twin Peaks stuff, but you really should watch this because it's really cool. It's really well done. And I've always gotten, you know, like my mom and my sister and stuff writing back going, that was great. And they're not even like Twin Peaks fanatics.
Right.
But I mean, I think you make it so kind of fun and relatable and everything like that. And you chart your journey. And I mean, you're shooting things that I never would have thought to film, like, you know, like you packing up or you driving and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's really cool. I think a relative of yours in the chat right now says, I just clicked over, got a male chimp and a credit union commercial. So
interesting. So I appreciate you saying, I appreciate that you appreciated the history stuff because that is kind of what I'm all about. And I just kind of like, you have to have that in there. Like like you said, I just had enough time to just briefly touch on it, but like,
were you shooting for a 30-minute runtime, or that's just what it came out to be? Like if it had been, like if it came out to be 45 minutes and you liked it, would you have left it at 45 minutes, or were you trying to go for that 30-minute zone?
No. Well, honestly, I wasn't planning on any voiceover, and I just wanted some shots and some music, and I thought it would be a cool 10 to 15 minute video like my other videos. Just like, oh, hey, I went up there and I did this. But like everything else, it just kind of, so I sat down, I was like, well, no, I need some voiceover to explain because some people have only seen the show once.
Right.
Some people have never seen the show. Some people have seen the show 10 times, but like one of my biggest comments, I think, is like, holy crap, I didn't know that the intersection was the same from Fire Walk with Me and The Return, right?
Right.
So like you have to kind of explain some, like not everybody's like me and you.
No, what I loved about your narration though was you touched, you were touching on things that like, I was like, thank God, that was such a smart move you made. And when you like, we were talking about the sheriff's station and the sawmill, and you're like, look, we all know the sawmill's not there, so this may or may not be a continuity error. And I was like, that's exactly the right thing to say, because look, it probably is a continuity error.
Probably.
And yet, because of the whole warp timeline thing, who knows, right? Right? But it was like, you walked that line so perfectly, and I was like, smart, because you weren't taking a definitive stance saying one way or the other, because who the hell knows?
Right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I would think, honestly, because you've been in that location now, if Lynch wanted to cut out that sawmill, they could have just moved over 5 feet. You know what I mean? So it's like to show that. I mean, Lynch isn't that senile. I mean, I know he hasn't changed his black shirt in like 3 weeks, but on those weather videos. But I have to just throw that out there real quick. Are you watching his YouTube channel?
Not every day. I saw the Fire short film,
right.
Catches weather updates. I haven't seen what was it? Jacob R. or
Yeah.
the one he dropped this past week. I haven't seen that yet.
So are you convinced that he's just shooting all these in one batch and then just dropping them every day? Because look, I don't think he is, but how the hell does he know what the weather is at 5:30 in the morning when he's dropping these things? I think, you know what I mean? Like the weather's not even out yet. I mean, you know what I mean? The sun's not even out yet. Because it's the same wrinkle every day on his shirt. Like, I want to contact Sabrina and be like, listen, is there like a PO box or something that I can like send some clothes to him, please?
Right. You know, that's, who knows? It's the same kind. It's literally the same thing as the Sawmill. Like, who knows? I mean, that could be like his work shirt because he's in his studio or he's in his workshop, right? He could just like under that could be a different T-shirt every day, and he just comes in and buttons this up. And it's funny. I was watching some of for the first time since Christmas, since the Z to A box set came out. I finally got to watch like a half an hour of the extra features, behind the scenes stuff, and it's the same thing every day. Button up, black shirt with the Bill hat, like every shot, every day. I think. Yeah. Like the stuff.
I mean, there's probably an Einstein factor.
Kind of having a uniform, you know. Yeah. He's got kind of an artist. Instead of the smock with all the paint on it, he's just got a black shirt.
But instead of like building things like every video, like I want to see him like do some laundry. You know, I want to see
making the quinoa again.
No, that's old now. You know, I want to see, like I want to see him on the channel guide trying to figure out what he's going to watch at night. Because I understand he watches a lot of like A&E true crime stuff. So, you know, but 3 weeks in Twin Peaks, congratulations on that. I mean, I just look, as somebody who does filmmaking as well, this is why I've been like saying so many wonderful things to you about it, because I know how hard that was to maybe not film because you're up there, but to piece it together in such a way that there is a continuity. It made it look like you actually went up there with a purpose. Right. So I know how time consuming that was. I know you joked about like, well, it was quarantine, so I had time, but still though, I mean, that's not something you crank out in like 2 days. That took a long time to do.
Yeah, it did for sure.
And you know, you working in media right now, personally, what I would do with that thing, because I know I've seen like colleagues of yours like talking about it and like replying to you about it. I think you should show that to some people and maybe throw it down as a potential pitch for even local series or something like that. I think you could probably, if you threw that to the right network or even a local network, I'm sure someone would pick you up to like produce your own show.
That's the thought. I mean, I'm not against it. Hadn't really thought that far about it.
I mean, you could just host it.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's weird because like I'm going up there going, I'm on vacation, I'm going to relax, and I'm in Twin Peaks for the first time ever, so I'm going to enjoy it. But I'm going to shoot some stuff because I got a YouTube channel and like this will come out. But then like I said, sat down to actually write the stuff, like explain a little bit, and then a little bit turned into like, and you know what? Like I wanted to advocate for the area. Like it's true, they don't have 100 sawmills up there anymore. They rely on vacationers and tourists, and I mean there's industry there for sure. But like I was like, I want to include some town history and basically be totally positive and all about these locations and give people the names and the information of these places and maybe a little bit about it. And if someone watches that video and wants to travel during COVID, or if all this crap ever ends, then like if someone watches that and says, I'm going to go there, I'm going to go there myself and check it out. And I'm going to stay at the Roadhouse, I'm going to eat at Tweed's, and I'm going to drink at Smokey Joe's. Like that's that's the biggest compliment, because that's what it's there for. That's why I took it from a 15-minute slideshow on my YouTube channel to something that's like whatever, semi-professional or whatever.
I went immediately to checking out real estate in the area after watching your video. and I was talking to my family. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I would do up there. Like if I moved up there, like, look, Twin Peaks fans, great. But I mean, like, what do you do on week 3? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, I don't know what I would do. I mean, you'd have to work probably in Seattle or work at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, if you worked remote, I mean, there are people, like I said, there's still industry there. It's just, and it's not as populated as, like, especially that Snoqualmie Valley area, like all the cities and stuff. But like, those are like places I grew up in Indiana. Like they are towns, like they are small towns. There's a casino, and
please tell me you went to the falls at night at one time.
No, we talked about this.
Oh my God, you didn't.
No, I called you or texted you because it just didn't work out.
Right. Well, there's also a trip too you can always take, you know. So
yeah, so I'm definitely going back at some point without a camera, with no agenda, and yeah, but it was
and I'll be honest,
one of the best I've ever been on. We went whale watching. We went to Cascades Park. We spent like 3 days in Seattle. Oh, dude, like I had like the Mopop Museum in Seattle. There was a sci-fi exhibit. They had Dune miniatures and sandworms and stuff from Lynch's Dune. Like I got pictures of all that, but I had to cut all of that. Like I cut a bunch of stuff from there's a whole Meadowbrook. So, you know, from Ronette's Bridge, then there's Meadowbrook Bridge that crosses over to the intersection.
Right.
Like I've got video of that, but it was like too many bridges.
Right.
And like other than, and that bridge itself isn't like crucial to Twin Peaks.
No.
I mean, it's cool because there's some shots.
Sure.
But I'm like pacing and flow. This is like one too many bridges. The guy talking about the hamburger, like that's cool to me, but I don't have him on camera talking about it. So that's got to go. Then the Seattle thing at the beginning, the Mopop Museum and all the sci-fi David Lynch related stuff, that had to go because you're watching it and you want to get to Twin Peaks. You don't want to hang out in Seattle for the first 10 minutes, right? So,
but you got to the Kiana Lodge, right?
Yeah.
Right. You got to the Kiana Lodge, which is where the interior is the Great Northern, Laura's Log, etc. I find it funny that you said that, you know, if you call up and make arrangements, they're very hospitable. They're lovely people. But when I went there, man, I had to like pull some Axel Foley, Beverly Hills Cop stuff to get back there. I don't know about you, but like, you know, I didn't want to check this place out for, you know, a relative's wedding or something like that. Like they didn't seem too keen on, there was nothing happening there. But they didn't seem too keen on like a Twin Peaks fan showing up. So I was surprised when you said, "Oh, if you call up and this and that," because like I've seen online saying they will not let you on the premises unless you have like actual business to do there. So
I've heard a bit of both,
right?
In my experience, because I talked to you about it,
right?
So I had a whole wedding story. I had a whole like, oh, my wife or my fiance and I were thinking about getting married, but I didn't know what to expect, so I just kind of played all angles. Like I had a story. I emailed them ahead of time. I found like a contact email on the website, and well, they're like closed now because of COVID, right? So. So I found an email. I sent an email, but it was over the weekend, so I hadn't got a response yet. So I had a story ready to go.
Right.
But at the actual moment, I just went in there, and there were construction guys working on a certain spot, and they were like, "Oh, the office is upstairs." And I just knocked on the door, and I just said, "Hey, is there anything going on? I'm a Twin Peaks fan. I want to take some pictures of the log." And they were like, "Oh yeah, okay, go ahead." And then since then, like basically like 2 hours after I left, I got an email from the manager, whoever was answering the emails, and was real polite and just like, oh yeah, just thank you for reaching out. This is how we prefer to do it, whatever. And then I was kind of like, oh, I was already there. And everyone helped me out. But I mean, I remember you and some other people were just like, yeah, they don't, sometimes they're, so I just kind of,
I didn't have an issue, but it was like, it is, private property, and you know what I mean? It's not, it's so
yeah, you want to just like show up and start walking around. So I think if you just kind of like pretend it was any other legitimate business in your hometown,
right?
Go to the office, knock on the door. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm here from out of state. Can I take a picture by the log?
Mm-hmm.
I walk around a little bit. And then later when I was inside, those construction guys are changing lights or whatever they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, I was just like, hey man, sorry, I'm going to take some pictures in here. And I was like, oh, this TV show I like was filmed here. And they're like, yeah, we know. And I was like, oh, people come here a lot for this. And he was like, every day, man, every day.
but you know what? As someone who's been there as well, look, if you, they know how I say this, there's only one place to go, and that's the Kiana Lodge there, because there's nothing else there. It's like, it's like you are definitely on the road going there. There's only one destination on that road. It's not because you want to go there. It seems like the whole road is focusing you towards the Kiana Lodge. There's no like roundabouts to like, oh, you could check out this. It's like Kiana Lodge, or you're going back to Seattle.
Yeah. And it's funny because a few years back, some friends of mine and rented a house in southern Indiana, and I was kind of having deja vu because it's the same thing. It's not an ocean, but it's on a waterway, and it's the same kind of thing. You kind of like, you turn off the highway and there's one road, and like there's a couple of houses, but other than that, like you're pretty much going to the one spot.
And it's all private property on those other houses. So it's like you're scared to even turn around if you have to.
Yeah. And like I said, I hadn't got an email response because it was like first thing Monday morning, and I emailed him over the weekend. So I hadn't got an email response. And I remember you telling me like, so I had no idea. And then when I talked to somebody in the office, just knocked on the door, and I was like, can I take a picture by the log? They were into it. I was like, oh, thank God. So I was like nervous the whole way there because you got to drive. We had to take the ferry from Seattle.
Okay. I just drove from Snoqualmie there. It took me an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I just drove up. I was like, you know what? I have some time to kill. Let's go. Let's just see what happens. I said, if anything else, it'll just be a pleasant drive. You know what I mean? I can say I at least tried to get there, that type of thing. So it was
Tacoma then, from Snoqualmie to Tacoma, and then up and around. Okay, because that was the first place we went. So we were in Seattle. We took the ferry across, which isn't as long. But then we also, after that, we went straight to Snoqualmie, and it's like a 2-hour drive.
Right. I mean, it's a pleasant drive. It's so I went
to the bar and started.
What?
We went straight to the bar, and I started.
I know. That's what I'm saying. When you said, "Oh, it's the end of the first night," and I'm at Smokey Joe's, and it's cool though because there's that gazebo right out front, and of course you went to the train museum and stuff, which is also really cool. And I've been up there. Let me think. I think 4 times now over the course of my life. I first went in 2003, and there was nothing having to do with Twin Peaks up there. Nothing, right? And I remember saying, don't you have anything Twin Peaks, like like in the stores or anything? And they're all like, you mean that show from like a decade ago?
Yeah.
The one that got canceled? The movie that bombed? Why would we promote that?
Right.
And so the Twin Peaks Festival at the time was the only time of the year that they kind of opened up a little bit for Twin Peaks fans. But in 2003, it was dead up there in court. Obviously there were always visitors, but they didn't cater to anybody. Now I think, while they don't openly Twin Peaks everything, maybe except for the Double R Diner, but I think they're a little more receptive because they're realizing, oh, this can be a tourism thing. You know what I mean? Which is very smart. I mean, I thought that they should have always been like that, but I understand it's a very small town. So,
well, yeah, and people don't like.
I mean, they're running over the sign, for God's sakes, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm from Lafayette, Indiana, right, which is where Axl Rose and Izzy Stradlin from Guns N' Roses and Shannon Hoon from Blind Melon is from. I know you're not a music guy, but those guys are rock stars, okay?
So, I know who they are.
Okay, so, but you just kind of forget. You know, so Lafayette's also where Purdue is. So there's a lot of international students and people from all over the country. And I would just like, I mean, constantly, like, you know, every month or two would meet somebody like, oh, this is where Blind Melon is from. Or this is where Shannon Hoon, this is where Axl Rose is from. And you're just like, oh, yeah, it is. I mean, there's nothing to see, really. I mean, there's Shannon Hoon's grave is there, but like, but, you know, people think that's cool, and you're just kind of like, I don't know. I can see somebody like not an avid fan, like the guy that owns the local hardware store in Fall City is probably just like, yeah, okay, a show from 30 years ago. But the return has a lot to do with it. Definitely.
Well, absolutely. If there's no return, there's none of this happening.
Yeah, right. For sure.
So across from the Roadhouse is that little hamburger joint and ice cream joint. And apparently that was David Lynch's favorite spot to like get food.
I've got a shot of that too that got cut.
I went over there to get some food and I'm like, I think they were closed. And I was really bummed because I really wanted to try. I was like, why is David Lynch always over here? I need to find out.
I bet they got great milkshakes.
So you mentioned Dune. I just want to throw this out there that people got a few new Arrow releases, and in the box when they opened it up was a postcard suggesting that they're going to release David Lynch's Dune as a special edition. So I immediately, and that's for US and I believe UK as well. So I immediately sold my Blu-ray of Dune because I have the Steelbook DVD of it, and if I'm going to get the Arrow special edition, I mean, look, it's wishful thinking. David Lynch will never contribute anything to that release at all. But Arrow is a great company, and they put a lot of effort and time into their releases. If you look at their Dario Argento releases, they're stunning. And I know, you know, they'll never be official director's cut or anything like that. But I do hope that, you know, that they'll find some cool things. You know, maybe they'll get a nice documentary. I'd like to see a real documentary, maybe with Kyle MacLachlan now talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, get Brad Dourif in there, get Patrick Stewart in there. I mean, you can get some people. I mean, Arrow can get some people if they really want to get some people. Yeah. And I know I bring it up because I know Dune is one of your favorites.
Oh yeah. I'm a big fan. Big fan. No, that's cool. So that Seattle Museum has a like neck up to the mouth, like, I don't know, this big of the sandworm. So it's just like this piece of rubber that's just kind of sitting there. But I mean, it's the puppet that they use for one of the sandworms, and they have like a thopter.
Why is that there? Dune was filmed in Mexico.
No. So sorry, it's not the. I'm flaking on the name. So the Mopop Museum is like Seattle themed, and it's like Hendrix and Pearl Jam, and they got all kinds of art and stuff. But there's an adjacent museum or a traveling, like, I think it's a separate museum, but they're next to each other. Anyway, there's a huge sci-fi exhibit there. They got the Xenomorph. They got like, they have original panels of. I'll send you these pictures sometime. They got
please.
These the switchboard from Frankenstein that was used in Frankenstein and Young Frankenstein. They've got Creature from the Black Lagoon mask. They've got. I mean, it was just like every.
So I have to go apparently. So I didn't even know this place existed. So
my wife's like a huge Pearl Jam fan, and we're like, oh, there's this museum. It's the pop culture museum, and they had a touring Prince exhibit. So Prince isn't from Seattle, but all the motorcycle and Purple Rain, all that stuff was there. Like, yeah, cool. And sorry, Seattle people, I can't remember if it's an adjacent museum or whatever, but this sci-fi exhibit was amazing. Oh, you see Galaxy Quest?
Yeah.
So the full-size villain monster dude, like we're talking full-size Galaxy Quest villain, full-size xenomorph. They had stuff from Predator. They had Michael Myers or Jason actual machete.
Oh, wow.
I mean, everything you could think of.
This sounds like the real Planet Hollywood.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God. My wife's like, what's I'm like, you don't understand. That's the like they had a prop axe from The Shining, I think.
Oh
they
my goodness.
From The Shining there.
Okay, you know what? I would risk COVID just to see this place.
They had and again, different exhibit, not the sci-fi exhibit, but
right.
Dorothy's one of Judy Garland's dress from The Wizard of Oz, one of Margaret Hamilton's hats.
Wow.
They had a full it was crazy. So instantly I'm just like jazzed. Like our first day in Seattle, I hit this museum and I'm there for like 4 hours. It's like they had something from every great movie I've ever loved was there.
Wow.
They had a Staff of Ra, the medallion from Raiders.
Yeah.
They had a lightsaber and a prop Luke hand.
Oh my goodness.
From Empire.
Unbelievable.
Like, go on and on and on. Anyway. Yeah, Dune is great.
Yeah. Well, related to David Lynch, Criterion is releasing The Elephant Man in September. I know a lot of people got ticked off because they're like, why are you releasing a Blu-ray when it's streaming 4K on your Criterion channel? Mm-hmm. And, you know, they haven't switched over to the 4K format. That's fine. But, you know, 4K is all region and they released it overseas in England. So you can buy the Criterion Blu-ray set and then just, you know, get the 4K disc from overseas and stick it in there. So, you know, and, you know, it's funny because everybody always talks about, you know, Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks, you know, Lost Highway, Wild at Heart for some reason always gets forgotten about. I don't know why. But Elephant Man and Straight Story always gets like, oh, that's just normal Lynch. You know, that's not real David Lynch. And anybody who knows David Lynch's work, like truly is a fan, looks at the Elephant Man, looks at the Straight Story and says, no, he completely made those films. He's not half-assing those movies. You know what I mean? He didn't just, oh, this is a paycheck. I mean, you watch the Straight Story, that is everything that is personal to David Lynch prior to going to Philadelphia. Like that's, like you feel his entire memories in that film.
Yeah, that's, you know? And we've talked about this before, and there's the thing that's ignored about him the most is his, and I understand it because when I was 15 and first getting into David Lynch, like I didn't care about his sentimental side, but now as like kind of a semi-crusty old man, like to me, that's so important. Like his whatever you want to call it, love of humanity, mm-hmm. his romanticism of youth, his Midwest roots and fundamental belief in the goodness of people. I mean, it's just like, it's all there. It's just cloaked and sometimes obscured by the surreal, nightmarish stuff. But I mean, yeah.
I mean, back in 1986, people thought that Laura Dern's speech about the Robins was Lynch mocking teenager soap opera theatrics. And the more you get to know David Lynch's work, you realize, no, that is David Lynch.
Yeah. And that's the same in, well, yeah, like you could even call it corny or cheesy or whatever, but he really believes that stuff. And that's one of my kind of issues with some of these meta critiques of Lynch work where it's, oh, well, it's all it's all a TV show. It's all Lynch commenting on how crappy TV is, or whatever you want to look at. It's like, no, look, like Ed and Norma and their romance, and a lot of this Twin Peaks, so half of it's Mark Frost too, but like Ed and Norma and their in and out romance, and the true love, and the Otis Redding song or whatever, like that's not a joke. That's not Lynch clowning on romantic television. Like that's a story of true love by a guy that believes in that stuff. You know,
but you know what? He couldn't stop himself though. I'll tell you this. He couldn't stop himself because everything in season 3, almost everything in season 3 is open to interpretation. Unlike seasons 1 and 2, where there are definite things that happened and then there are surreal things that happen.
Yeah.
Almost everything in season 3 is up to interpretation. Like Norma gives Ed the shaft and he sits down at the bar and he can't, you know, Lynch could have easily just said pie and coffee and have him just sit there and then Norma comes and touches him. No, he made him close his eyes and kind of meditate as the camera moves in. So it's like, is he a dreamer living inside the dream? Is this even happening? Like, is this Ed's wish fulfillment? And I'm like, damn it, Lynch, can't you just give us something? Do you have to make everything open to interpretation?
Yeah, this is true. When he closes his eyes and he actually prays for a cyanide tablet, remember?
Oh yeah.
Or he asked for talks to himself.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, okay, yeah. But the return aside, like certainly the original show and the cut stuff from Fire Walk with Me, like not every single thing is some meta comment on how David Lynch is pissed because studio made him reveal the killer 30 years ago. Like, that's not how it works.
And I even think there's some parts of Lynch that are kind of revisionist history on this whole thing too.
And we've talked about this before too. I agree 100%. I don't know how the hell you write the first 15 episodes of a show that literally every single scene is about how do we find the killer of Laura Palmer. And then when the studio says after the first season was like, hey, you're going to have to wrap this up. And then they're like, this was the goose that was laying golden eggs and this was going to whatever. And it's like, I would believe that if there was one sub-story or two, like nothing ever broke. I mean, you'd follow different characters and stuff, but every single thing ties back to who killed Laura Palmer. And I first realized this in 2014 when the entire mystery box set came out. And I rewatched all the stuff for the first time in maybe, I don't know, 6-8 years or something. And that was and I remember like, oh yeah, Lynch is supposedly mad because they solved the Laura Palmer thing. And I'm watching it just go like, again, had some distance since the last time I'd seen it. And I was like, literally every scene is, with the exception of when season 2 starts and they know they got to wrap up the killer. You've got, Albert saying Wyndham Earle's broken out of the nut house. And like, maybe there's some other stuff, but literally up to the minute that Leland Palmer dies, every scene is who killed Laura Palmer? How are we going to find the killer of Laura Palmer? And it's just like.
So what some people don't know is that when Kyle MacLachlan signed on as the star of the series, ABC signed him to a 5-year Twin Peaks contract, not 5-year ABC contract. He was going to be Agent Cooper till 1995.
Yeah.
If the show had continued on. And so when I see Lynch talking about like, we were never supposed to find out who killed Laura Palmer. We're supposed to go on and on and on. Well, if he truly believed that, then he wouldn't have made an entire movie about who killed Laura Palmer, like showing the step-by-step process. So I think there's a part of him that's revisionist about it. And I also think, I will maintain, I know I say this all the time, but I will say it again because I'm sure there's new viewers here. I think the bulk of season 3 was spearheaded by two things. I think David Lynch felt really burned about Fire Walk with Me, and you know, another season is another way of like branching out the mythology, and he can kind of redeem it in some ways by fleshing it out. And I think Mark Frost not having any affiliation with Fire Walk with Me was like, okay, how am I going to weave this back in so that I kind of take ownership over this material again? So I think in many ways, season 3 is like, ultimately, I think the goal of season 3 is redemption of Fire Walk with Me, so that it actually plays as part of the overall canon and not the strange stepchild.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I read recently an interview with Bob Ingalls or Harley Payton, I can't remember, but they did confirm basically in the inception of Twin Peaks, and probably up to the end of season 1, I can kind of see that being the thing. They were basically saying yeah, we had this idea of never solving the murder, and then it was going to splinter and branch and whatever. And it's I can kind of see that. I'm not saying that Lynch is full of crap. I believe that was. I think that him and Frost and them were Hazel Irene Drew, right? They never solved that murder, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Fired Laura Palmer that's getting a documentary and all that. They never solved that crime. And so that was kind of the thing. And they're like, hey, we'll have a dead girl that will never get solved, but we'll fall in love with this town and yada, yada, yada. So I believe that that's true. But this idea that 40 years later, the return is some kind of scathing indictment of studio politics, of forcing them to release it. It's just all right. I mean, it's not. There's elements of that in there for sure, but I just
don't be knocking a video that's 4.5 hours long and has over 1 million views. Okay, I know you're jealous.
Oh yeah,
63,000 views.
Since you brought it up, I really like that video. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. I mean, there's lots of cool stuff. There's observations in there I think are just awesome. There's the Laura seeing herself in the TV reflection at the end of Fire Walk with Me, that. Some of that stuff is just wow, that's really cool to look at it that way. But I don't buy the I don't buy that everything is
one note,
because it's just not.
Yeah,
there's too many. He cites some stuff that were obviously they were Harley Payton stuff. I can't remember. The video was pretty long. I can't remember, but it's just Twin Peaks is a collaborative thing, and it means a million different things to a million different people, especially the creators. Especially if you read Harley Payton interviews, read Bob Ingalls interviews, read about the inception of some of these ideas and how they came about. And you can make basically any meta critique of the return on its own is solid. If you think it's an indictment of television, that's fine. If you think that it's literally a show within a show, that's fine. If you think it's all a dream, that's fine, because by its nature, it's subjective and up for interpretation. It's just, I don't know. But it's good. You guys should check out that video. It's good.
I've said for years now, in retrospect, that if Lynch really wanted to bring back the focus on Laura Palmer, then after Leland died, instead of doing 3 days later and continuing the story, the rest of season 2 should have been Laura Palmer alive and dealing with all the characters and ending season 2 with her dying, so that it just came full circle. So actually do Fire Walk with Me as the back half of season 2
in the show. Yeah. And yeah, I remember you bringing that up once. I always kind of,
I mean, I never would have thought about that at the time, but in retrospect, it's well, you would have shifted the focus back. We would have been able to see, it's I remember when Martin Scorsese showed Taxi Driver to a priest friend of his, and he says, "What did you think?" And the priest said, "There's too much Good Friday. There needs to be more Easter Sunday." Right. that's kind of like how I feel sometimes about the theatrical cut of Fire Walk with Me. I think that if you had balanced it out a little bit more so that Laura is tutoring Josie in English and Laura is working with Johnny Horn and all that stuff, as well as a lot of the other dark stuff, I think people would have gone along with it a lot more. And I think people would have gotten back into the show and there would have been a season 3.
Back then. Yeah, it's possible.
But but that wasn't even a concept back then of like
bringing it back,
going back in time and stuff. No. Yeah. Today, yes, because if you look at from pilot to the solving of Laura's murder, everyone goes, "Oh!" At the time, it was like, "Oh, they took forever to solve that thing." You break it down by episodes; it's not even a full season of Veronica Mars. like they solved it in 16 episodes in a pilot. And most shows, network shows, are 22 episodes. Yeah. So they still solved it earlier than most full seasons of TV.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't remember that, like, a full season of TV in 1986 was, 29 episodes or something.
Well, it was 22 back then too. But but when they got season 1, it was a pilot and 7 episodes. They got
right. So you had those seasons that came out in the fall. That would be like half seasons just to see if it would work,
right?
Or whatever.
That's why season 1 is all killer and no filler. Like people always ask me what do I think is the best season of Twin Peaks, and I say, really, season 1 is probably the best because it's so tight.
6 episodes,
right? But it's so tight and it's so perfect. But ultimately, season 2 is my favorite because I think while season 1 is amazing and I love it with all my heart, without season 2 is what kicks it up into like really like that's where we get into the lodges and we get into, all this other stuff. And I think that it elevated Laura Palmer's murder from just the murder of a girl in a small town into true mythology. And so some people didn't like that. I get it. But like, I always say season 1 is probably the best season, but season 2 is like my personal favorite, which is probably going to get into our discussion about my project in a little bit. I don't know how you stand. I mean, season 3, I kind of look at it almost as its own thing. It's like I told Sabrina Sutherland, I said, I don't even feel like it is season 3. It feels like Twin Peaks season 25. Like we've just missed like all this other chapter stuff,
Yeah. And for me, for years, up until a couple years before the return, like I bought the pilot movie and I bought the VHS box set. It was like the 2nd edition of the box set. And it was just episode 1 through 29. Right. So, and this was pre-internet and I didn't know much about the show when it was out. I knew it existed and kind of what it was about, but I never made the distinguishment between the first 2 seasons. Like I kind of knew that, okay, that one episode that's like 8 or 10 or somewhere in there, it was kind of long. Maybe that was one of those Sunday night episodes where they would double it up. But like, to me, the original series is, and if you watch my videos, that's kind of how I talk about it. It's, I always refer to the original series or Fire Walk with Me or The Return. And if you're getting in the weeds on like technical stuff, like what happened with like shooting and or the cliffhanger at the mill burning down or whatever.
Right.
What's that? Oh, cool. The mill burning down and stuff, like I'll refer to season 1 or season 2 or the season 2 opener or whatever. But in my mind, it's the original show,
right?
Walk with Me, and the new stuff.
Well, it's like season 1 is like there's the comedy and the drama and the horror and the mystery and all that. It seems like it's so balanced. And then season 2, the comedy gets so comedic and cartoony, but then the horror gets pushed to the opposite side just as more extreme. So like while you get the Pine Weasel and all that stuff, you also get Bob killing Madeline in the living room, and that is balanced, but they've pushed the extremes bigger in the season 2.
I agree.
The ending of the 2nd season premiere when Laura's getting killed in the train car is still more intense than anything in Fire Walk with Me. So
I would agree.
You know, but I know you wanted to get into, because we're both filmmakers, I know you wanted to talk about filmmaking and editing as well. As you, and maybe you guys don't know or do know, I am working on a fan film called Queen of Hearts. I say working on because it feels like that's all I've been doing for the last couple of years. But it is completed, more or less. I may have one more scene I might be able to shoot, which I'm very excited about. But after that, I've been editing it and stuff like that, and then it's premiering this fall. I'm actually premiering it on November 10th, 2020, which is the actual date, not in the show, but the date that the Madeline dying episode premiered. November 10th, 1990 was the Saturday night 10 o'clock show that, with the last 15 minutes that felt like it went on for eternity, because I think that either Cooper's Dream, because I know it was shot for the international pilot, but it's like Cooper's Dream or the last 15 minutes, episode 14 with Madeline dying. That might just be the greatest, like, sustained 20 minutes of Twin Peaks until maybe the atom bomb sequence or and the stuff in episode 8.
Agreed.
So you are one of the few who have read the script for the film that I'm making. And I remember when you read it and you got back to me about what you thought, the thing that kind of stood out to me, and this is whenever like I ran into a problem, or it was just like, how am I going to solve this problem? I kept thinking of your words when you would say to me, "This thing is no joke. How are you going to pull this off?" So, I mean, without getting into specifics and stuff like that, when you sat down to read it, let's say like the way I sat down to watch your film, did you have preconceived notions of what it was going to be versus what it ended up being when you read it?
I don't know if I had any. Well, obviously I knew it was going to be about Annie,
right?
But no, I didn't. This sounds terrible to say, but I expected you to be a little more responsible.
Responsible.
Meaning, like, I expected you to like. That's why I was like, dude, this is no joke. Like, you. Well, I don't want to say.
Don't go into specifics.
You've got this scene and this scene and this scene, and like, I mean, like, I was like, hey, the story's great and stuff, but like, how are you gonna do this? How are you gonna pull this off, kind of thing? So, but no, it was cool. Like, I just thought it was super ambitious, and I appreciated that, but I also didn't really know you that well at the time, and I didn't know like what your background and stuff, and I was just like, this is either going to be, well, I think I told you at the time, like, I had tried to do, there's this indie comic that I want to do this fan film of, and couldn't get funding for it, and I just kept rewriting it, and it ended up being a short film that I never even finished, that's still in a hard drive somewhere. And it's just like, I know what it's like to have these big vision. That's the problem with my whole life. It's just like, I've got all these big ideas, and I as an artist or whatever, this has been this way forever. Like, I start like 15 projects a year, and I get like one of them done, and the one I get done is the one that is the least ambitious, because that's what a guy on a budget by himself can actually get done. So I saw this big project, and I was just like, and then when you were having all the struggles or whatever, I think I also told you a couple times to, I was like, just rewrite it, man. just rewrite it, cut, make it one episode, make it a half hour or, a 40-minute, make it a Twin Peaks episode, season 3 in 1990 without the commercials. So 40 minutes, I was trying to brainstorm all these ways, like, how can he cut this down and make it more manageable, but keep all the good stuff and make it interesting? And I was trying to talk you into cutting it down to like an episode of the show.
You weren't alone. I'll be honest with you. You weren't alone. I have other friends that, that have made films, and they're just like, how many people are in this movie? And I would kind of tell them, and they'd be like, what are you doing, man? I mean, you need to have a cast of like 4 or 5 and keep it to like 2 locations.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, to me, this was my low budget approach. You know what I mean? Like I was like this, this is as low budget as I thought I could get. I was like, well, I keep reusing a lot of the same locations. So it's not like, always having to find new stuff.
Yeah.
Cut to the trailer. Now you'd seen teasers and stuff like that, but like, I dropped the trailer in April while you're working on your 3 days in Twin Peaks. What did you think when you saw the trailer? Because you've read the script, so like you're looking at the trailer. I was just curious what you thought of that, because I don't think we've talked about it.
Yeah, and you sent me the teaser of the trailer. You remember that?
Yes, I think so.
Basically, you were cutting the trailer together, or no, you went and shot all that, and you were like, well, this is she just quit.
Oh no, that was the Jackrabbit's Palace teaser scene.
Oh, the teaser. Yeah. Well, so I got a preview of that, and I was just like, man, this is great. And then so my whole last year is just gone. I don't even remember. I don't remember when you dropped it. Was it in like June?
It was like June-ish. Yeah, because she had quit.
Trailer, not the teaser.
Oh, the trailer was April of this year.
April. Oh yeah. Okay. Teaser was last summer. Trailer was this year.
Yeah.
I
gotta tell you, because after I dropped that teaser scene, all of a sudden, within 3 months, we were shooting the film with a new actor, new actress, actors, everything.
I'm gonna take credit for that too. Do you remember? So you were like, well, here's the stuff that I shot, and you probably were gonna do this anyway, but I remember telling you, like, this is great. You keep this as a demo reel, or you just go ahead and put this out as a teaser, and no one cares if it's a different Annie, because it's going to be another year before this is done. Just get it out there and show people that this is for real and coming out.
You were the one that did kind of say, what I think you should do? I think you should cut this scene, do it the best you can, put it out there, and let people, and show this to other actors and say, this is what
other actors. It's like, hey, like, this is like your demo reel, or your,
right.
And then you ended up, okay, I didn't tell you to necessarily release it. I told you to finish it, to show other actors and producers or anybody else, to show people that you're not messing around.
Right.
You're going to get help. And then you ended up putting it out as a teaser. That's what happened.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, people have been following the project and but everyone was aware. It was, there were, for every 2 steps forward, it was 6 steps back. It was just chaotic. And it wasn't like anything I was doing. It was just, it's very hard to get people to commit to things, especially, and
I was shocked because you had a budget. So I was always struggling with never having a budget and just kind of begging, borrowing, stealing people to help, whatever. And it really bummed me out, because I was like, Cameron's got money, even. Like, not a lot, but like you've got some resources. Like, I'm trying to make a short film 10 years ago with no help, no money, no nothing. And like, at least you had something and you were still struggling with, oh dude, all the stories that just the actors and the drama and like,
I mean, think about this. Think about this.
Like, oh, like I'm
so I flew an actor up to Washington. I go up there. She's cast as Annie.
Yeah.
We shoot that whole scene at Jack Rabbit's Palace, and then she quits.
Yeah.
do you know, like, I mean, I almost wanted to pull an Annie Blackburn and just, you know what I mean? Like, because it's like, what the hell? Why didn't you quit beforehand?
Yeah.
You know? And her whole thing was, oh, I didn't realize this was going to be so hard or difficult. And I'm like, it's acting. You know what I mean? Like you read the story, you knew what was expected. I just don't think that people, they hear the words fan film because for technical reasons, you know, you have to call it that because it's not official. So I think people go in sometimes with the attitude of it's a fan film. I don't have to take this seriously. And my whole attitude from me reading the script or whatever is, no, my attitude has always been, we're going to take this extremely serious.
Yeah.
Because it never was designed to be a fan film. This was always designed to be, you know, like I said, back in the 90s, my friend said, oh, if you were ever in a room with Mark Frost and David Lynch prior to them not working together, what would you pitch to them? And I would say, oh, it would be a version of this story. Of course, that never happened. But like, if, you know, it would be like someone going to Disney and saying, I have this idea for, you know, Rogue One or something like that. And they go, oh, that's a great idea. And then you go make it, you know? So I always thought it was like going to be a fun little spin-off story. And so whenever I thought about it or conceived of the ideas, it never was conceived to be fan filmish, what you would think would typically, you know, fall into those tropes of being fan filmish.
Yeah.
You know,
bad lighting.
Yeah. So like trying to get actors to like understand my idea of it, but see, releasing that scene, not that the other stuff didn't help before, but that scene really cemented it as like, oh, that's what he's going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And, oh, sorry, I had a thought. Oh, just that, so for people that don't know, my last episode on my channel was like November of, God, I don't even know what year it is.
What year is it?
Exactly. Like I dropped an episode. I had gotten this new job. I went to Snoqualmie. I filmed the stuff. I put that on the shelf. I spent off randomly the rest of 2019 doing some graphics, and I finished up my episode for the town of Twin Peaks, and that was in November. And then basically, like, other than randomly putting that episode together, up until whatever, a couple months ago or 3 months ago, whenever quarantine started, like I kind of just like dropped out. Like I wasn't posting on Twitter, I wasn't on Facebook, I wasn't on Instagram, I wasn't following anybody. I mean, occasionally maybe I would log in and retweet something or whatever. But as far as your project went, you know, I was in this new job and barely touching Twin Peaks stuff all of last year. I mean, basically after Snoqualmie, other than finishing up my one episode, I kind of just had no idea what was going on. And what was cool was, especially like right now, especially this moment, is one of the last things I remember, you had done some update and like maybe you'd gotten some actors on board. No, you did. You did. Yeah. Things were kind of headed in the right direction at that point. But you were doing this video and you're just like, I just want to get to the point where I'm just, it's all on my hard drives and I'm just editing, and please God, what like all this principled photography to be done so I can play with editing, because that's the fun stuff.
Yes and no.
And now you're here. So that's great. So I agree. Editing is the fun stuff.
It's very hard, though. It's very hard.
Not as hard as dealing with actors' egos, man.
Well, that didn't honestly. I didn't have a lot of. I didn't have a lot of that on this project, thank God.
Yeah.
But the hard part for me was the scheduling of people and
money, budget, like all the hard stuff of filmmaking. Like editing to me is like that's the fun stuff. That's when the story comes together.
Right.
When the voice of the project comes out.
Sure. You
know? No. So congratulations. A year of me not being around, and I come back and kind of resurface, and you're like getting ready to edit. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, you clearly see what a negative influence you were on my life. You had to leave for a while in order for the project to, you know. Right. Yeah. But anyway, but you saw the trailer. What did you think of the trailer when you saw it? Because you had read the script, so you're looking at the trailer. I mean, was there a part of you like, holy crap, they're in a hospital?
Yeah. So forgive me, I can't remember if it's in the trailer or you saw the image, the aquarium.
Oh yeah,
shots in the trailer, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't.
Well, not in the trailer, but I have released aquarium shots. Yeah.
Okay, that was the moment because that, and then I just found out recently from one of your videos that was kind of an ad-lib thing, right?
Yes, there's
it doesn't say they go to an aquarium.
No.
Okay, so that was when I was like, that's what really blew my mind, because I was like, okay, now there's visual elements that I don't have a preconceived notion, because I've read the script.
Mm-hmm.
So the trailer's great, but for me, it was more about like an analytical thing. Like, here's this shot, here's this. Okay, so they did this, and in my brain, I'm putting it together because I know the story.
Right.
So it was really that aquarium shot that I was like, I don't know what you want to call it. Like, it was more of a pure moment or whatever, because there's nothing in the script that says they go to an aquarium and they stand in front of the whale or the dolphin or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like a pure cinematic.
Well, it says in the script. I mean, I'm completely just paraphrasing here, but it says something like, Cooper is enjoying his time with Caroline and stuff like that. And so that was always open to like, well, what could that be? It could be lots of things, and we could shoot a bunch. And we did. I shot honestly like an hour and a half worth of stuff for just that one sequence. But one of the things that I said was, we gotta get him to some place that is visually interesting, and it's not just, I don't know, sitting in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Like I want to see something. And so my wife and my kid and I, we ended up going to the aquarium, our local aquarium. That's where they shot Star Trek 4.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that is
so I was like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. Cooper and Caroline at the aquarium. That'd be kind of fun. And I was like, it's never going to work. And then I Googled Pittsburgh aquarium as a joke, and I found out they have an aquarium in Pittsburgh. And I said, well, there it is. It's one of those happy accidents that Lynch always talks about. So I said to the actors, I said, hey, would you be open to going to the aquarium? And of course, the actress that plays Caroline, she's not from this area, so she doesn't know this place. And I said, well, if you're up here all the time, let's just go, go and get some footage and stuff like that. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And they had a great time. And we got into this one tank at like 9:30 in the morning. There was nobody there. I started rolling. Within 45 seconds, 500 people came into the room. But for 30 seconds, I have a shot of them alone in front of this huge tank. And it's stunning. It's stunning. And they came up to me. I said, look at this. And they went, oh, that's worth us coming in here.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. So that was the shot. That's cool. And Cooper whispers to Caroline, Gracie is pregnant.
Well, no, it's funny because we were at the aquarium, and of course they have a penguin exhibit, right? And I was like, and we were just joking around. I said, oh, this isn't in the movie. So I was just saying it to myself, like, oh, this might be where Cooper comes up with that penguin joke he tells Annie.
Yeah.
That's not in the film, but I was just cracking up to myself because that's what I do. I'm a geek. I make myself laugh. So anyway, so we just got a lot of cool footage that way. But I'll throw out a little spoiler here. Another moment that's not in the script, because I was thinking there's no way I'm going to be able to do this, is Annie in the convent. I'm not Catholic, and modern convents aren't at all what they used to be. Like, it's not like The Sound of Music anymore, where people, nuns are living in a castle and that type of thing. So, but I was like, that is such an important part of Annie's story. It's like, I kind of have to touch on it somehow, but I don't know how. So I kind of, the script doesn't get into it. But I was thinking, I just need to have at least a visual moment of something. I don't know what, you know what I mean? I thought maybe we just have Annie in church, or Annie at a church, or whatever. And I was thinking, yeah, but it has to be kind of really visually stunning. Like, but what can it be? And there's lots of great churches around here. But then it dawned on me, 15 minutes up the road is Mission San Juan Bautista, which is where Hitchcock shot Vertigo. And I thought, well, Vertigo, of course, has Madeline and Ferguson and Judy in it. And so I said to the actress, I said, what if we go up there and get some footage? And she said, great. We ended up going the last day before the governor shut us down, right? So we get there. There's nobody else there. The church is closed. It's totally, there's nobody there. Usually that place is swarming with people.
Yeah.
And so we had the whole place to ourselves, and we just started shooting. And so there's that shot in the trailer of Annie approaching the giant cross with when you see the tower that Kim Novak falls out of and stuff. And I thought, it's not in the script, but what you're talking about, the aquarium, but it becomes part of the film, because now you got to interpret the words on the page to a visual medium.
Right. So, sorry. I did kind of forget about that. That's the other shot that I think people got a big kick out of. I mean, I did. That one, I kind of knew you were going to do something in a church.
I was thinking about it. I just hadn't decided what yet. But
actually seeing that play out, I mean, and it's like all the fun little stuff too, like the fact that it's that church and Vertigo and all, like, I mean, that's the extra stuff, and the aquarium, and the, like, that's what you were talking about earlier. That's the difference between a fan film and something a little more than a fan film, because, knowing locations, having a vision, being able to do stuff on the fly, being you got to have creative chops, and you got to be organized and you know what I mean? I don't know.
Believe me, it was myself and one other person this entire time doing the entire film. I mean, and this other person also stepped in front of the camera and acted as Annie.
Yeah. And
so, yeah.
Her name's Maddie, right?
Yeah.
So I watched I watched your one-on-one with her and the one-on-one with the actress who played Caroline.
Right.
And everything else recently, because I've been busy, I go and I open it up and it says user deleted video.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but yeah, that was great. I really liked her interview, and she sounds like she was a gift from God.
Yeah, and the fact is that we had another Annie cast, another one.
I know.
And then we went to shoot stuff in the Pacific Northwest. Again, we're like, okay, let's just start back up there like I did before. Let's just get that stuff out of the way. So we go up to the Pacific Northwest to start shooting. First day, this actress isn't going to work out. So now instead of somebody quitting, I'm going to have to fire somebody that I flew up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we have all these other actors scheduled to shoot in the coming days or weeks or whatever. And I'm sitting there again like this, you know what I mean? And that's when Maddie and I were sitting there, and she said to me, I can do this, and I want to do this. And all of a sudden it dawned on me. It was like, you know, like those movies where like someone looks at their best friend, like Teen Wolf or something like that, you know, he looks at Boof and realizes, oh my God, you've been the one the whole time. Right. Like, why did I even bother pining after the blonde girl? You know what I mean? Like, this is, you've been here the whole time. So I was like, all of a sudden when she said that, it was like, I looked at her and I said, you kind of are Annie. You know, but I had these blinders on because I'd already cast another actor. So I wasn't even looking at her in that way.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden it was like, and she's like, you know, the dress fits. And I was like, yeah, it does. And we never looked back. You know, of course it made coming back from that trip very awkward because the other actor was with us the whole time. But I mean, you know, imagine getting dumped and then having to stay like with the people that dumped you. Yeah. So
it's called living in a small town. I've been there. They'll be all right.
Yeah. But I mean, we had to make a call. We had to make a judgment call. And we knew that even if this person stayed on, it was going to be a miserable shoot. And we didn't want to put ourselves through it because shooting independently can be miserable by itself. So we didn't want to add to it. Anyway, so she's the perfect Annie. And of course, Charlotte, who plays Caroline, she's the perfect Caroline. I mean, she didn't wear no wig. So she's that 1980s, you know, Tawny Katane, you know, but that was the Caroline hairdo that we saw in season 2.
Yeah.
So she changed her whole look, and then Maddie changed her look to accommodate Annie more. And, you know, I couldn't have been more blessed with all the actors and stuff like that, because when they started seeing the footage, they were realizing that they were coming out looking really good. And so then it made them try harder, made them want to do more. And then all of a sudden they weren't so mad to do 8 or 9, 10 takes or something like that, because they knew that I wasn't going to have them do more than they needed to do. You know,
it's the balance of don't want to do more than you needed to do, but sometimes it takes 10 times to make sure you got it, or at least have at least one in the worth putting in the
I was looking for minimum 2 that I was convinced could work.
Right.
So if they nailed one on 3 and nailed one on 9, then maybe I would go one more just in case. But then I would be like, okay, I'm happy with at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You have to do that. You have to do that, because when you sit down to edit, if you don't have it, you're screwed.
Now, I agree with George Romero and Robert Rodriguez and other filmmakers that have edited their own work. And I'm sure you'll probably feel the same way. If you have enough footage, you can make anything work. You cut stuff out. And
you have the cut. I mean, you may not have that exact take you want, but you got to have coverage, cutaways, like, you know, of the dialogue that needs to be spoken or the action that needs to happen. You got to have. Well, I guess El Mariachi is like all one take.
Not always, but I mean, a lot of things. But yeah,
a lot. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and you have to have, like you said, you can't just show up at that church or the aquarium and putz around and oh, let's try it and do it. Yeah, that was okay, that's good. And then you get home and then something's out of focus or whatever. It's like, no, you gotta shoot it when they're there. Shoot it like if let's say the actors weren't ready, but you got the camera set up and you're filming the aquarium, and there's 500 people running down the door. You go ahead and shoot the aquarium, and then maybe you put their voice out. Like you gotta give yourself options to be creative. Okay, I didn't get the shot I wanted. I didn't get the actors standing in front of the aquarium with the beautiful silhouette, but I got an awesome shot of that dolphin swimming by, and then I'm gonna have their voiceover over it, like they're talking to each other, looking at the aquarium. It's like all options you have to have the tightest plan imaginable to execute what you want, but all options and accidents have to be open to capture as well, because sometimes that's all you're left with, you know?
True. And I told the actors that day, I said, when we walk in these doors, you are Cooper, you are Caroline. I am not going to ask you to like, okay, now go get in position. And, you know, I might say, okay, we're going to go do this real quick, but I said, just stay in character the whole time, because there's going to be times where I may just whip out the camera and start filming you guys and just pretend you're on camera at all times, stay in character, so that I can get not just posed shots, but, you know, where it looks like you guys actually are hanging out, you know, and you can tell the difference between a composed shot versus just a candid moment. I wanted those moments where you saw Cooper and Caroline come alive, as opposed to them just rigidly playing a character or something like that. Not that they would, but you know what I mean? When you're in a location like the aquarium with no permits, you know what I mean? You know, you kind of have to, just make sure everyone's ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But see, I'm very lucky around here because, you know, I grew up around here. So I kind of have an idea of what we can and can't get away with. And, you know, and
yeah.
And I know if you go during certain times, people will be more flexible about this and that, you know, but I was like, you know, but it was just so funny because, you know, Charlotte who's plays Caroline, she's from LA, and you need a permit for everything down there. I mean, everything. Everyone's like, it's a very Hollywood friendly town, movie making town. Everybody wants to know, what are you doing? What are you doing with that footage? You know, around here, you know, I have, you know, Clint Eastwood was our mayor growing up, you know, and The Lost Boys was filmed 30 minutes up the road. Killer Clowns from Outer Space was filmed 10 minutes up the road, and Vertigo was filmed over here. Basic Instinct, Zodiac. I mean, all these, and yet it's still like a touristy kind of town. So people are used to having cameras everywhere, and you know, and so you can kind of, you if you know the area well enough, you can get around and do your thing. And I think they were kind of amazed that we were able to pull off so many real world locations. But I think that also extends to, like, we're talking about you going to the Pacific Northwest. It's up there. It's almost the same thing because there's always tourists. There's always people going around, but it's such an open, freeing place that you can kind of film. People, you know, you can go out in the woods in Washington and film things.
Yeah. I got away with more than I thought I would. Just not get away with it, but just like,
right.
I also didn't want to be intrusive. I also wanted to just kind of, you know, and like there, you know, I granted, I just told you there's a bunch of stuff I cut from the movie, but like, or from the video, but there's on the other hand, a lot of that, I mean, that's 90% of it. Like, there's some bad shots. I got dust on the lens a lot. There's some water specks and different things. Like, it is, like, you know, far from perfect. But when you're running and gunning, it's like, you know, different scenario than yours, because yours kind of has to be locked and, you know.
Well, it's staged, but then, like you said, I left things open for spontaneity.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, this is my approach to filmmaking. It always has been, and maybe there's a little bit of touches of Lynch in here as well. But my attitude is, I go in with a plan. We're going to get the scene, you know, the way I want to get it. However, if myself or an actor or somebody comes up with an idea that I think may work, if I know it flat out won't work, whatever. But if I think, well, there's a 10% chance it could work, we're going to try it. If we have time, let's try it. Because you never know. Maybe I'll cut it out and be like, it didn't work. But maybe it will. You know what I mean? So if I think even it could conceivably work even in a minuscule sense, I will try it. And, you know, that makes it fun. It lets the actors feel like they're more part of the process and all that. And sometimes even if I go, well, we have time, but I don't think it's going to work, but maybe they'll surprise me. I don't know. You know, you never know. And sometimes they do. So, and it just, you know, it made the film. So we shot well, again, I could shoot an extra day or so if I have to, but I mean, more or less, let's say round about 40 days. Okay. So it was a 40-day shoot, which is a long time. However, because people have work schedules and there's traveling and accommodations having to be done, we couldn't take a month and shoot it. So we had to shoot primarily weekends, right? So if you break 40 days down into weekends, that's 20 weeks, which is the equivalent of what? 5 months.
Yeah.
So imagine if you've ever made a short film and you shoot for a day or shoot for a couple days, imagine having to manage that for 5 months with lots of people, locations, what scenes are we shooting, what days, grouping them together so we can maximize the space. And then you go to the local college, you make a pitch to the film classes. The teachers say, I'm going to give you class credit to work on this film. And you don't even have to come to class. You'll find this amusing. You don't even have to come to class. Cameron and Maddie just have to let us know that you were there, you clocked in for those hours, you're good, and you'll get your A in class. Do you know how many people signed up? Probably about 25 to 30 people signed up. So we were very happy about that. Do you know how many people ever showed up?
Zero.
Yeah. So they had the option of either going to class and just sitting there and staring off into space, or working on a film that they would get credit for, class credit as well as production credit, and they still didn't show up.
Yeah.
So every time Maddie and I, when it came time for whatever scene, we had to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this? And how are we going to do this if nobody shows up? Because that's usually what happened. And we had to just break everything down that way. And so when you see the film, I'm talking to everybody out here as well, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, just please know that only, very few people worked on this thing. And so if you think it's awesome, just, take that into consideration of like how hard that was to do. If you don't think it was awesome, I'm sure you'll be able to still recognize the effort that was put in. Because I had people writing me after they saw the trailer saying, just from the trailer, you can see how much hard work went into this thing. And that made me feel good because, they don't know the film or whatever like that. But and would it be safe to say, as somebody who has read the script, that seeing the trailer really doesn't tell you all that much about the film? Like, you gotta get the sense of, okay, it's going to deal with some of these characters and stuff like that, but it doesn't like tip its hand with what the story is. So,
yeah, for sure. There's definitely more to it. It's like I said, it's a lot of ins and outs. I still just can't believe you got it done.
And what'd you think when you saw the trailer? What'd you think of did you see the red room at the end of the trailer?
Oh yeah. Well, that was the biggest challenge or leading up to that. Yeah. And then I remember a tweet or something saying that you'd figured it out, figured out how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So, like I said,
to be honest, I can't believe we pulled this off either.
Yeah. Well,
I'm in disbelief just as much as you are, because it's just like, oh my God, it's done. Like, I spent so much time trying to get it off the ground. And now that it's done, it's just like, well, it's not edited totally yet, but still it's like, I can't believe we pulled this off. And I can't believe the footage actually looks as good as it does. Like, I knew going in, if everything was done correctly, I knew this would be a cool thing. But a million things could go wrong at any second, and so I think it's just amazing that if it came out pretty much what I thought it could be. You know, obviously if we had more help and we had maybe, you know, some locations that allowed us to film there more, and I'm not talking about official locations and that, I'm talking about like, you know, like we went to this place and, you know, they were open to it, but then, you know, coronavirus happened, so we couldn't film there anymore, you know, so we had to find something else, you know.
Well, hey, just send me all the footage. I'll edit it for you.
Yeah, right.
You can just.
You don't know my style.
No, I'm joking. Of course, that's my whole point. That's what I was hoping to, or you know, as far as editing goes, like,
yeah,
it's really the fun stuff. I met a filmmaker once, not a aspiring filmmaker once. I'm not gonna say names, but she told me that she hated editing, and I was just like, I'm like, that's it. That is filmmaking. I mean, not what, you know what I mean? Like shooting, I get it. I get maybe shooting or whatever is more fun or whatever, but I mean, like, that's the reward to me. I mean, I don't look, like I said, I was a punk rock promoter. I've only worked with a handful of actors, but I've dealt with 100 bands in my life, and it's the same thing. Like, God bless all you actors and musicians out there. I love you, but it's it's egos and drama and just constant, and then there's logistics and money and all that stuff that we were talking about. Like, that's the stuff that I don't really, I mean, it's doable. It's just, it tries my patience. And editing, for all that hard work that you do, editing is the reward. It's like, okay, no one's around. It's just me and my stuff. And I'm going to stitch this together so it makes sense to other people. And I mean, like, I'm envious of you to be by yourself, you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning, just like, oh man, this scene next to this scene, next to this scene, this is going to be like butter. Because it's like, to me, that's the greatest feeling in the world, is telling a story through images and sound.
Right.
Getting those images and sound is a challenge for sure. And editing is like, that's the good stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's just fun to, like, you know, I was watching some Scorsese stuff because him and Thelma Schoonmaker are always doing things about editing. And it's like, yeah, you know, editing isn't just when you cut. Sometimes it's when not to cut.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, oh, I'm gonna let this scene go, you know, an extra 5 seconds, and because you might cut it the way you want it to be, and I'm sure Jeremiah knows this very well. You can go, oh, that's good, great, and then you stand back and you look at it and you go, ooh, that rhythm is way off. So that shot needs to be 1 second longer. This shot needs to be 2 seconds shorter, and then you mold it down to what it's going to be. So, you know, every film goes through the assembly rough cut, right? So when you hear things online, oh, this movie had a 4-hour rough cut, this movie had a 5-hour rough cut, that does not mean the movie is 5 hours long in its finished form. It means that it's not even molded or sculpted yet. It's just all the footage dropped on the.
Yeah, you've harvested a mine somewhere and you've got your slab of clay and it's 20 feet tall, but that doesn't mean that the final thing is going to be that way. And then the way I kind of do things is by kind of like scene or moment or a string of scenes, and like yeah, the assembly cut is getting it all together, and then you go in and like, I don't know how you are. I don't know how the film's going to be, and I don't know how, you know, you're going to stick to certain. I mean, you got to stick to the script, but I mean, like, rhythm is the big thing. Like I said, I cut that the bridge, the second bridge, not Ronette's bridge, the other one.
Yeah.
Because too many bridges, and that's day 2, and day 2 is the longest one. That's already 15 minutes of the video. Like, you gotta, like, you got to remember, and that's the other thing that student films or short films or even indie bands or whatever, it's like no one cares. Like no one cares about this stuff as much as you do. It's on you to make a convincing story. Like you may think that this shot is, and that like every filmmaker says this, be prepared to cut your favorite shot. Because it's not about you. It's about, is the person watching this getting something out of it? Is there a story being conveyed? Is there an emotion being conveyed? You can just drag, the worst student films and short film or it's too long. There's no cuts. There's one scene that's a minute, and then there's another scene or another shot that's a minute, and another shot that's a minute. And then when it's done, they're like, I don't understand why this sucks. Because real movies have a cut and then a close-up and then back to this person and then back to
unless you have a surefire vision of
all this stuff.
Like Lynch can hold a shot or something like that. Kubrick can hold a shot. That's because they're greatly framed and the actors know what they're doing, and you have a vision. You have a vision for it. It's funny you say that. You talk about like, this was a filmmaker's favorite shot, or and they had to lose it. So without getting into specifics, there was one sequence in this story that I thought, going back even 25 years, I was always like, this sequence would be incredible to see on camera. This is, and it's a major sequence in the script.
Yeah.
And I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And we had the actors lined up. We had the location lined up. We had the equipment lined up. We were all ready to go. And
I was going to help you with visual effects for that scene.
You were going to give me a sort of a what do you call those things? Not a storyboard, but it's like an animatic or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, okay, so we were all set up, and then we lost everything because of this pandemic, which a lot of people lost a lot of stuff as well. But just if I can speak selfishly here about the project, it was just like devastating, because it was like, well, we didn't know if we were going to be able to shoot it in a week or 2 weeks, and people had taken time off, and it was going to be this big thing. It was going to take a couple of days to do it, and ultimately we never got to shoot it. We never could. And so I had to let some actors go. Like, sorry, I know you've been on this project for like 6 months waiting to do this moment. I can't do anything about it. I don't control the world. And they were all very understanding about it. But literally to think of a sequence that you were like, this is going to be a major sequence of the film. And then not only to have to take it out, but it's one of those connecting sequences that gets you from A to C.
Yeah.
So now, or I don't have to do now because I've already done it. I had to write a new sequence to connect it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But not do kind of a half-ass version of what I wanted to do, because then you would just be forever looking at that going, oh, it's a half-ass version of what I wanted to do. So I just went the complete opposite and did a complete 180 of what I was going to do. So at least when I look at the scene, it's a fresh scene rather than feeling like a compromised scene.
Right.
And so it was just like, well, okay, I guess we're going to lose that. And you know what? It's sad, because it's not like we had to cut it because we couldn't do it, or we didn't have the ability to do it, or we failed at shooting it. We had to cut it because, the world went to hell, basically, and, but I'm always hoping, and again, I didn't say always hoping, but I'm hoping that when the film comes out, after the film comes out, I am going to drop the script so people can read it and see the similarities and the differences and whatever it is. I'm hoping maybe someone out there, some aspiring filmmaker or computer animator, will take that sequence and maybe for my birthday or something, give me a version of what you think that would be. No, I wouldn't put it back in the film, but I would love to just kind of see it, because it was going to be epic. We had so many cameras for this moment. We had land cameras and drones, and it was going to be amazing. And
I can't talk about it because I know what scene it is, but yeah, well.
But when you read the script, right? I mean, it is it's kind of a major sequence to drop.
Dare I even say in Twin Peaks, maybe an action sequence.
Yeah, I mean, there's elements.
yeah. I mean, it's not, there's not cars blowing up and things, but
no.
But
that would be more doable than this in a pandemic.
Probably blowing up a car. So, any comments you want to get? I probably need to.
Yeah, I need to get going in about 10 minutes. So any questions, comments, throw them out there real quick. We'll do our best to address it. I was hoping, I know you're super busy with a lot of things, but I'm hoping, since you were able to read the script, I'm hoping that you would be willing to do, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but since you're here, looking at the film when it's done early before people, and maybe doing a review on your channel for it, because you have about 3 times the amount of subscribers than I have, and it would really mean a lot if you help spread the word a little bit.
You can. I'm hoping to do more reviews and talking more. Like I haven't done a live chat stream of my own in like a year.
Yeah.
But send it when it's done. So what? End of summer, probably.
Oh God, no. Oh, I'm thinking it's probably going to be done
like October,
end of September, beginning of October. I want to be able to sit on it for like a month, so that I can make any little last minute changes I have, rather than finishing it the weekend before and then dropping it.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I was up till 4:00 in the morning the night before that my video came out, and I don't like doing that, but I had to for multiple reasons. But yeah, so yeah, call me, send it to me when it gets closer.
Oh yeah, it will be. I
am jealous though.
Jealous of what?
Of having piles and piles of awesome footage, and I'm an editor. I like editing. It's great. It's fun.
Well, if you and I lived closer, I would absolutely, because if we could each, take a few minutes every day, this thing would go twice as fast. But I have, we're doing, we have a 2-year-old in the house.
Yeah.
Which makes ADR super fun. Let me tell you. So ADR, for anyone who doesn't know, it means it's like it was too windy or there was too much noise and you couldn't get good sound. So people have to come in and re-record dialogue or voiceovers or whatever. So I literally had to send the family out for like a weekend because there's birds outside. There's a 2-year-old screaming in the house, and the actors is trying to get back in the moment of where they were.
I'll just tell you this because it's kind of funny. Remember, you sent me the link on Twitter, and I said, "Can you just email this because I got to switch computers and stuff?" That's because my neighbor next door, literally right on the other side of this window, was putting a new roof on today. So I come home after work and I'm getting in the shower, and all you hear is nail gun. So I was gonna have to take the wife's laptop and go into another room, go into hiding. So it's like, email it to me because I'm switching computers. And they left like 5 minutes before. And I was like, all right, cool, I can use my computer. But my neighbor, it was an awesome dude, but they're having another kid. They're selling the house. He's been basically remodeling. So I've been going to the office now, but I've been doing a lot of work remotely. And all of that video here at home with bandsaws and hacksaws and nail guns, literally right here the whole time.
Right.
Kind of similar to a 2-year-old. I would still take my neighbor remodeling my house over a 2-year-old. God bless Mr. C. Just saying.
Yeah. No, he's wonderful. But the thing is that if he had, if it was safe to do daycare or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this project would be done super fast.
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes I don't even get around to editing until in the afternoon, and then whatever I'm working on in the afternoon, I try to finish up at night. But like, if I had my mornings free too, I could probably get twice as much work done. You know how it is. It's just, so it's just this home lockdown, which is fine because I'm a homebody. I do miss not having options, you know what I mean? Because it's like it's making the process longer.
Yeah.
And so it's like, sometimes it's like, I really want to work on this. And then at 8:00 at night, after being with a 2-year-old all day long, I'm like, I'm so tired. I don't want to look through 45 minutes of footage for the right line reading. I mean, and just to give you a little bit of editing, and this will make you probably really happy. For me, it's like, sometimes for every sequence we shot, it's averaging between 50 minutes to 90 minutes of footage for every scene. Now, I didn't know this when we were shooting, but what I do is I throw everything. Since you worked in news and media, this is something I learned when I worked at news. Because I used to just go through footage and be like, oh, I like that. And I would pull it out. No, I like that. This and that. News taught me, throw everything on that freaking timeline. This is the way they work out here. I don't know if you guys do this. Throw everything on the timeline. So I don't care if it's an hour, 5 hours, throw everything on the timeline. And then you go through all the footage. Any shot that may, be somewhat conceivable, you cut it out. Take that moment, take that line, take that look, take that everything. And then you condense that down to whatever it is. And then it's like ironing. You just go over it and over it and over it. And you take that line and you put it in the timeline. You look at it and go, And then you find another take of it. And then you switch it out and you go, ooh, I like that line reading better. So that one gets deleted. So you end up just paring it down. But that, for every, I'm going to say this, it depends on what kind of what you're shooting. For every minute of footage or minute of film that you see in a film or a short, or even in your project, I think that you're probably looking at about an hour to 2 hours of time put into it, because you're going over it, you're looking at it, then you run it back, you look at it, and it's just like, when you're editing, it's a lot like being in the Black Lodge. Time stands still, and you go, oh, I'm just going to do this 5-minute sequence. Next thing you know, it's been 14 hours and it's 11:30 at night, right? And you get done, or you finish for the night. You can't go to sleep because you're so wired from being so focused, hyper-focused, and sometimes you look at your footage, you go, oh, I like this. And then you get excited. And next thing you know, it's 2:30 in the freaking morning. You're still awake. And you're going to get up at 6:00 in the morning and start again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
That's exactly how I work. And I was just going to interject, my run and gun shooting style on this video, like I said, I'm basically on vacation, just taking random shots as I see fit. And there was a lot. I was 3 or 4 memory cards or whatever. So I did shoot a lot, but I didn't spend all day there. I didn't wait for the perfect take and the perfect thing. We were just kind of running and gunning, and it felt like kind of the old school film in the canister thing. Like with digital, you've got that temptation to just let it run. Oh, we'll edit it later. Next thing you know, you've got 2.5 hours of footage you really only need 30 seconds out of it. You know what I mean? And movies, your project's different because you have to do takes and whatever. But I'm glad that I didn't. If I'd have done it with a plan, I'm going to go there and I'm going to film this movie, God damn it. Then I would have overshot it. Yeah. I would have overshot it. You know what I mean? I would have had 10 memory cards instead of 4.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm glad that I didn't overshoot it. I'd still be editing it. I would still be putting it together. But instead it's okay, it's the front of the sheriff's station. I have 15 seconds of this angle, 15 seconds of this angle, maybe 30 seconds of this angle, and a couple minutes of a static cam.
And sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, we go right up to the last frame.
Oh, or you go in and change the time to 98%, so you get that extra couple of frames and hope.
Yep. Like, oh, I don't like the fact that the actor blinked right there, so let me cut that out. Oh, but that means I need to run it back at 89%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I talked with Jennifer Lynch years and years ago, she confirmed to me that she is a frame cutter. Like she goes right to the frame of what she wants. Some directors aren't. Some people are like, whatever, just cut it there. No, she's very precise. And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, to me, a filmmaker is that way. Just Kubrick all the way. We're going to get it correct the best it can be.
Yeah. And, and that can be fun too. And a lot of times creativity is birthed from that. I don't like how this one little tiny thing is. So am I going to fade to something else? Am I going to slow this shot down? And with
constantly problem solving.
Yeah, constantly problem solving. And with Twin Peaks, it's fun too. I don't know if you noticed, but I reverse some shots sometimes noticeably. Car driving backwards. I don't know if the mist over Deer Meadow Mountain or Oahu Peak or whatever, I reversed it as well. If you ever know the shots where it's just the mountain in Twin Peaks, I didn't notice this till I was putting the movie together, but the mist goes like from left to right. But like, I think normally it's the other way. And I went, they reversed that. And it made me go, I think it's in Firewalk with Me or Missing Pieces.
Right.
But I realized, I was like, oh my God, it mirrored the return. The mist is actually reversed. This shot is actually in reverse based on how the stuff works. So when I went in there and found the shot that matched up, I was like, I'm going to reverse it too.
Absolutely. And, and to anyone who out there goes like, well, David Lynch is, famous and, the millions of dollars of production budget and all this stuff. I got news for you. If you look at those behind the scenes, especially on the Z to A box set, he's problem solving all the time because even he has to be creative. And some of the coolest things in Twin Peaks: The Return, I guarantee you, were done because they ran out of schedule. They didn't have enough budget, and they had to come up with a creative solution for it. So it's not like, so what Jeremiah is doing, what I'm doing, David Lynch himself is doing, just on a much higher level, but still he has to find solutions.
Yeah. And musicians, and there's happy accidents on all your favorite albums have these happy accidents or mistakes. And it's just a way of working, and it enhances your creative flow or your creative, basically, like, how do you turn all your weaknesses into strengths? How can you take a mess up in the camera reel back 60 years ago and like, oh, we're going to turn this into a cool flickering effect because the reel broke or whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's like the thing they tell you when you're a stage actor. The audience doesn't know you've messed up a line. Only you know. Keep going.
Yeah, right. Exactly. No one knows. And taking that stuff. Oh, speaking of my parents, I was just visiting my parents on vacation. So that's when I got to break out those special features for the first time. They haven't seen any of the Twin Peaks stuff, but I was like, I'm just going to watch a few minutes of this stuff because I haven't seen it. And they really, really liked it just because it's raw. It's not a featurette.
No.
Where it's semi-polished or whatever. Like, it's literally just raw cuts of them all working on their thing. And I wouldn't say it blew their mind, but it was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, and then you get to see all that stuff, like how David Lynch, like, you understand why actors and his crew likes him. You understand how, how you can still be a taskmaster and you can be a visionary, you can be a taskmaster, you can have specific goals in mind, but you got to be fluid and you got to be able to accept challenges and accidents.
But it's also because he's the first man in, first man out, or last man out, right?
That's how every artist should be ever, always. Music, art, film, whatever it is, it's like you have to be willing to put the time in. Like if you're, if you're not that person, the first one in, first one out. It's so funny you said that because it's an indie rapper that I like, and I just thought about this the other day. And there's some line where he's like, "I'm the first one in the venue and the last one to leave," and I was like, "Yeah, that's how David Lynch is and that stuff. That's how I am. Maybe not on location shooting on my vacation, but like,
right.
I'm up in the morning 2 hours before I got to go to work because, like you said, I'm excited about the Ronettes Bridge scene, and I knock out a couple more cool little things, and then go to work for 8 hours, and I come home and I work another couple hours on X, Y, or Z because, like, you got to be willing to put the time in, and you got to be creative and fluid, and yeah.
That's why I wish on the season 3 box set. I know no one would care about this, but I always get sad when, especially on the Twin Peaks box set, that they don't go into the post-production time. Like I would love to see how long it took them to edit the woodsman walking outside in the episode 8. That's not like, oh, let's just throw that up on the timeline, knock that out in about 10 minutes. That probably took like 5 days.
Yeah. I'd like to see Dwayne Dunham and David Lynch going at it like that. That would be pretty awesome.
So here's my theory. I think Dwayne Dunham and his assistants worked on it during the day, and Lynch went in at night and fiddled with it. That's what I think happened.
Went in and grabbed the slider and dragged every scene out. Another.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So unfortunately, we do have to wrap this up because I have to get going. But every Twin Peaks fan owes it to themselves not only to subscribe to Take the Ring, but you got to check out this video and 3 Days in Twin Peaks and get it to at least 100,000, because I think it's well deserving that. And I really do think you should look into using it to get some sort of little adventure to maybe open up some new opportunities for you. Because I mean, you talk about the teaser thing I shot. You could definitely use that. I mean, you could probably get a show on A&E right now with that, bring that into a pitch meme, like, look at this. And they're like, oh, that's beautiful, because it's so well shot, and, the images are stunning, and you can't really get a bad shot up there anyway. Let's be honest here,
Hey, I was going to say that from the get-go. Like, I want everybody to watch the video and go, I can do that, or I can do better than that, or I can see more stuff, or I just want to go experience it. Like, just, if COVID's still around, be safe and go up there. If it's over with, there's nothing. If it settles down or whatever, like, you got to go up there. And I put it off for 20 years.
It's like a religious experience to go there, honestly.
Man, I said this, I think my line is that fresh mountain air is no joke. Like, it's no joke. If you're from the Midwest, they're like, I got allergies and all kinds of crap in the Midwest. And you go up there and you take a big breath of air. It's like, oh God, it's like, it is. It's like breathing. It's like being a baby and breathing for the first time.
My air sacs have never felt so good, right? It's just like, it's incredible. So I just want to throw out my last question to you is, if you are a Twin Peaks fan, I know you haven't seen like a lot of the footage and stuff. You've only seen the trailers and stuff like that. But if you were a Twin Peaks fan, and knowing what you know of the script, do you think Twin Peaks fans should be excited about what I'm going to drop?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no question. I mean, it's what everybody thinks. I don't know how to say it right. It's what they want, it's what they want out of a fan film, whether they know it or not. Like, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from you, but like when I read it, I'm like, not necessarily what I would do, but like, this is the level that I want it to go to. Like, we're going to have different characters, and it's characters that you like, and we're going to go to the familiar places, but we're also going to do something new, and it's going to tie into the story, but it's kind of its own thing. But you know what I mean? Like it
honestly treats everything as canon.
Yeah.
Like I don't just run amok and just do.
Yeah. It doesn't screw anything up. Like it fits right along. Like it's not like Cameron's going to come out with this movie and it's about the log lady secretly being an alien and all this, like, you know what I mean? Like
Stop giving spoilers.
Right. It sticks to the
core of it.
Core.
Yeah.
Canon, which I don't use that word in Twin Peaks, but yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jeremiah. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
It's always a pleasure. Make sure to subscribe to his channel and follow him on Twitter. Sometimes he takes long vacations from Twitter, but he always comes back. So, and thank you so much for watching. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and what was I say? Oh, and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.